Hello YouTube, and welcome back to another alternate history presidential election prediction. And this time we got the 1972 election, which of course was held between Republican incumbent Richard Nixon and Democrat George McGovern. But today in this alternate scenario I got Republican President Richard Nixon still, but Democratic nominee George Wallace. And of course Wallace was the governor of Alabama back in the day and ran for president a few times but wasn't successful, and ran as an independent even in 1968 and was able to win a few states in the South. So this is an alternate scenario, like I said, where if he was the Democratic nominee instead of George McGovern, see how he would do against the incumbent president. Now of course McGovern's nominee was seen as too far left, which cost him the election, and of course it was a landslide for Nixon. But in this scenario I think Wallace could actually do better than McGovern, because he would have that Southern appeal, and of course how good he did in the 1968 election as an independent. Of course Wallace was known being a pro-segregationist. However, by the time the 1972 election came around, he did actually moderate his views on race, and so he could definitely have more appeal to voters since he was more moderate around this time with his views on race, because of course he was, like I said, very pro-segregationist before, but he was still able to do good in the 68 election, which is why I think he could do a lot better than McGovern, especially moderating his views. And of course there was an assassination attempt on him in 1972 when he was giving a speech, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and he was paralyzed the rest of his life, so he was in a wheelchair at this point. So anyway, let's see how he would possibly do in this scenario. Now obviously Nixon, I'm sure, would win these states still pretty easily over here in the West. Of course they were less populated at the time, especially California, so I think these would still go Nixon pretty easily. Same with these Bible Belt states, or excuse me, Sun Belt, and like these Mormon heavy states up here like Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. I believe Alaska would go for him, even Hawaii. I believe he did win it. Yes, he did in 72. I think he would win it then against Wallace. States like these: North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma. Now Texas, and actually I might backtrack on Oklahoma, because George Wallace actually did have good appeal in these states in the primary in 72, and even came close to winning some of these states in 1968, because like I say, he did win some of these states through here. So I think he could actually make a play in these states, and since they're in the South and that's where he's from, I think he actually would possibly win them. I think he actually would have a good shot at Texas. Of course Nixon won it against McGovern, but of course McGovern was more of a far left candidate, so that's why he suffered. I think Wallace could definitely make a play here, and if that was good my gut, I think he would actually win it. Because like I said, his Southern appeal, even though he's more pro-segregationist, like I said, he did moderate his views around this time, so I think he would definitely have a great shot to these states. And even when he was more pro-segregationist in 1968, he came close to winning these states and won quite a few counties, and like I said, he did win these states through here, which is why I think he would win these like he did in 68, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, home state of Alabama where he was governor, Georgia. He could make a play in Florida because he actually did win the 72 primary, I believe, here, which is why I think he would win it. Same with South Carolina. A lot of these southern states, like I said, Tennessee, I think he could definitely make a play in Kentucky as well, but it would be close. But if I had to go with my gut instinct, I think Nixon would still take it just barely, but it definitely would be competitive. And of course Oklahoma, I think he could make a play here, and I think he'd win it if he was winning Texas. And like I said, these other states, he did win the primary, I believe, in North Carolina, so I think he'd win here. Now Virginia, my home state, I think will still go Nixon, because it's going Republican for a while, of course, until up to 2008, so I think Nixon would still win there, but Wallace would definitely make a play, especially in these rural parts. But I think Nixon would have enough further up here to win it still. Same with West Virginia. Of course, West Virginia was actually more of a Democratic state this time, so it's possible Wallace could pick it off, so I might actually go to him. Because like I said, George McGovern, with how far left he was, didn't appeal to a lot of people, which is why he suffered in a landslide. And now Wallace, I think, can make a play in states like these too, Missouri, Illinois possibly, and he actually did win the primary in Michigan, so I think he could take that state. And it'd definitely be close in Wisconsin. I think he could possibly take that too, but if I had to go with my gut, I'll probably give the edge to Nixon. And let me look real quick about Missouri, about the primary. Yeah. So Wallace did not win the primary in '72, but in the 1968 general election, he did win like one county. And that was it. So if I had to go with my instinct, I think Nixon would still get Missouri and Illinois as well, and I think these other states like Indiana, Ohio, and now, like I said, Wallace could definitely make a play in these states like Wisconsin, Minnesota. I believe he would win Michigan since he won in the primary, because he did actually have good appeal to these unions and stuff. But I think I would still have to get the edge to Richard Nixon. Excuse me. Yeah, I think the edge would still go to Nixon possibly. In Minnesota, Wallace could definitely make a play if he's winning Michigan. And Pennsylvania, I believe, much of the Northeast would go to Nixon, like New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, all his districts. I think he'd win Massachusetts, even though McGovern won it. That was, of course, I believe, his home state, right? No, excuse me, his home state was actually South Dakota. But he still lost that to Nixon. So actually, even though McGovern did win Massachusetts, maybe Wallace would win it, but I'm not sure. No, I might actually go with them since McGovern did win it still. And of course, McGovern also won like DC, and so I'll give that to Wallace too. But you probably have lukewarm support there, because I don't know if a lot of blacks will turn out for him, but who knows, maybe. I think he'll still have the edge here in DC. Of course, you see Richard Nixon's already over the top at 317, so it's still kind of a landslide, but obviously not as much as McGovern at this point. As far as the rest of these northeastern states, I believe we go for Nixon. Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and now we got Iowa left, which I believe will go Nixon. Like I said, Wallace definitely did have great support in Michigan, in these states up here, because he won in the primary, but I could definitely see him possibly picking off Wisconsin too, since I haven't won in Michigan. But if I had to go with my gut, I think Nixon would have the edge, giving them 367 electoral votes to George Wallace's 170. Definitely Wallace would have great support down here in the South, of course, where he's governing Alabama, and he actually won these states. Like I said, in '68, he won Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. I think he'd do well in these other southern states, and even West Virginia, which was more of a Democratic state back in the day, of course, but going for Nixon over McGovern, which is why I think Wallace would pull it off, because he would have more appeal to the working class, like he did in Michigan in the primary, which is, I believe, he won in the general election. But obviously, still a win for Nixon, a pretty good still landslide, but obviously not as big against McGovern, in my opinion, as you see here. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you agree, disagree, that's fine. Just let me know in the comments if you have a different scenario or idea of what could happen. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time.